Tuesday, July 20th. Thank you. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk, if you would.
Councilmember Bertani?
Here.
Councilmember Moy?
Here.
Councilmember Panduro?
Here.
Councilmember Tim?
Here.
Councilmember Tonneson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Vaccaro?
Here.
And Mayor Price.
Here. And the invocation this evening will be led by Ira Manning, Bethel Community Church, please, Pastor, if you would. It's unfortunate that we don't have the pastor, so we'll go immediately to the Pledge of Allegiance, please, Madam Clerk, if you would. Madam Bertani, thank you.
Please join me in saluting these great United States of America. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll begin with council reports, please. Councilwoman Panduro, if you would begin, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to share Councilmember Scott Tonneson and I, as well as I think Councilmember Moy, had a tour of Rockville Hills Park by our park ranger, Terry. And I just wanted to thank Terry and the parks and for all in the Public Works Department for all that they do to maintain our Rockville Hills Park and our other open spaces. I encourage the community, if they have not been to Rockville Hills Park, to go out and enjoy. It's a beautiful space. It's very large. I was in spaces that I didn't even know were out there. So it's a great park. They do a great job keeping it and maintaining it for our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Nothing for me tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Tim?
Yeah, just real briefly, I had the opportunity to listen to Steve Conti, our fire marshal, last weekend. I actually came out on a weekend and gave basically a fire safety seminar class to probably 50 or 60 residents in the area in which I live. And it just drove the point home that we do suffer from fires. We will suffer from fires. And I guess the question is how much can we do so to keep the suffering down and the loss of property and obviously lives. But I wanted to give a shout out to the fire department, especially Steve. I saw you earlier. There he is in the back. Very knowledgeable. He will do this at the drop of a hat. This is what he does, and he has a lot of good information. So I thank you. Mayor, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Moy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello to everybody here and at home. Yes, as Councilwoman Panduro said, I did go out to survey the area, Rockville Hills Park. Of course, I've been up there a lot growing up and so on. And it was really shocking to see it now in the drought conditions. And also, I was interested to hear about the number of rescues that the city, our firefighters, and also actually Suisun Fire District, which covers up there, and helicopters having to come in. And it's becoming more and more of an issue. Once every 2 weeks, somebody will be up there. We had a homeless gentleman who went up there and he almost died. From the cold, he went up there to find a place to live and they had to helicopter him out. So it's an ongoing thing. And also it's getting more and more difficult to keep the park as tidy and as fire resistant, if there is such a thing, up there because we have a contract with this state, and state prisoners come in. We pay them, and they come in and do a lot of the clearing there. In addition to our own volunteers, we only have two paid people up there now from Public Works, Ranger being one of them. So it's a huge, huge park, very steep areas, and very difficult to handle. But with the release of so many prisoners now, the crews have been cut down to very few. And so it's becoming more and more difficult to do. We still use cattle and sheep up there, but with the water being a problem, and also they can cause their own problems if they get to overgraze, which she has to keep track of so it doesn't happen. It's very intricate. There are several species that are protected up there, and she has to take care of that. I hope that in the future we could have a discussion about hiring a second ranger. That's not the only open space we have, and it's dangerous just to have one ranger, and she can't be there all the time. So it's something that I think we should consider. It concerns me quite a bit. So, and I learned a whole lot up there, a whole lot. Very interesting, the cultural issues and so on up there. Learned so much. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, Mr. Mayor, is I received a call from our very first poet laureate. And that was back in 2010, as you recall, that you appointed her. And her name is Juanita Martin. And I had the honor of, she asked me to fill out some paperwork and to nominate her for an award up in Sacramento for exceptional women of color. And she won't know until September whether she's done it, but I believe she will. And she has continued to represent us all these years, and we do have a new poet laureate, but she has been very busy with her poetry, with writing books, with belonging to clubs, and going to other communities, not just in Fairfield, but she still does live here, Mr. Mayor. So it was good to, and she told me to tell you hello. So hello.
Well, wish her well for me, please.
I sure will. And that is it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bertani, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and for watching from home. Appreciate having folks in the chamber when the meeting is on, because you matter and make the meetings always better. I just have one thing I want to remind everyone, that the Fairfield Clergy Action Network, or Fairfield CAN, will be meeting on this coming Tuesday, July 27th at 3 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. This is a coalition of our clergy in the city of Fairfield, those senior pastors. We're looking forward to working together with the faith community and putting our resources here at the city of Fairfield in action in conjunction with our clergy, who kind of are on the front lines. They have their finger on the heartbeat of the community, and we want to make sure that we're working together with them efficiently to get people the services that they need. Looking forward to a report at that meeting from Chief Cantrell. Thank you, Chief. From Pastor Sam Morris from the Bay North Church, and from Scott Mulvey. So if you have a senior pastor who is not at this meeting, please let them know they need to be in the house. Again, it's on Tuesday, July 27th, 3 p.m. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's great to see everybody here. I recognize some people, some animals from the parade. It's great. I do want to thank our Public Works, our traffic department. I understand that the four-way stop was put on Dover and Marigold, I believe. I got an email regarding that, and I think that was something that probably was a long time coming. I know there was some serious traffic issues going on up there, speeding and otherwise. The other thing I just wanted to mention, on Saturday, I attended the Central Labor Council dinner. Councilwoman Pandora was there also, and it was quite an event. It was at American Canyon Ruins, and if anybody's ever been there, there's these old ruins in the back of Adobe Lumber, and it was neat. You know, you walk back there, and there's a lot of graffiti, but now it's kind of turning into sort of an artist type thing. But it was a lot of fun. It was definitely different. Everybody's there to support labor, so as always, it was a great event. That's really all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
And I should like to report very quickly that The Travis Armed Forces Committee normally, before the pandemic, would meet on a regular monthly basis, but because of the pandemic, of course, we weren't able to meet, but we did yesterday. And I want you to know that I thank the wing commander for the flyby on the 4th of July. And the troops were really very, very appreciative. And we made certain that each of them and that crew that flew over Fairfield, they received a little goodie package from Christina. Thank you very much, as well as some Jelly Bellies. But I also would like you to share with you that this year, Travis Air Force Base has an economic benefit to not just Fairfield and Solano County, but all of Northern California that exceeds $2.2 billion. And to that extent, then, on Thursday morning, some of us will be out there for our first Wing Commander's breakfast, and there'll be dozens and dozens of people. So when you see someone in uniform shopping in Fairfield or entertaining and having a good time, thank them for their service to our country. Mr. City Manager, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just one real quick item on the agenda. We want to make a quick change or propose a change. Item number 16, which falls under the consent calendar, we ask that be removed from consent and put under new business. So when you approve the consent, we ask that you remove 16 and consider that separately under new business. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. City Attorney, your report, please.
No report
No
right now.
report. We'll turn now immediately then to,
I do have a short report, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
That's okay. I just want to thank all the volunteers that helped with the 4th of July parade, and I will be contacting all of you because now we have the Tomato Festival coming up, and we're going to need even more volunteers for that. And that's going to be held in downtown Fairfield, August 21st and 22nd. It's a Saturday and Sunday. It's a lot of fun. So I will be posting to social media the online sign-up registration form, and I'm hoping that a lot of you will sign up. So thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you would read the process for public comments, please.
Yes. Persons wishing to address the City Council on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Council may do so at this time. The Council cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting, but Council members may briefly respond to statements made or questions raised by the public, ask for clarification from staff, refer the matter to staff, request staff to report back to the Council at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. To speak on an agenda item, if you haven't already done so, please complete a speaker's card and give it to me before the time for public comment on that item. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. Thank you.
And our first speaker will be Anna Patero, please. Anna, welcome.
Oh, good evening. Wow, we're close. Nice to see you all again, and I love your new digs. You're welcome from all of us here. I'm here as a member of the community and also as a member of the school board, but speaking for myself, representing Area 6, particularly in the area of Diamond and Woolner. I have been supporting Mr. Hosendorf and because he's adopted Ledgewood Creek. There's a school there by Ledgewood Creek called Sheldon, and there are lots of students who live there. What I'm here to ask is that the city pay a little more attention to Woolner and Diamond, because that is a beautiful area. Ledgewood Creek could be amazing. Mr. Tonneson came over a couple of Saturdays ago to check it out while we were picking up trash, and there is a lot of trash underneath that bridge. It would have been lovely had you stayed a little bit longer and picked up a bag and helped us, but thank you. Come back next time. And so, I spoke to you, and I'd like for you to follow up on paving that street, because it is a patchwork. So I think if we beautify this area, having adopted a few streets, beautify that area and pay some attention to Woolner, because the road is a patchwork. Ledgewood Creek could be so beautiful. You can put exercise equipment up there so that all of the young people who live there can enjoy that place and walk up and down, get some exercise. I think it's a lovely place. I'd like for the City Council to pay more attention to that. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all of our peace officers for your service and for your families for sharing you with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Mark Camote, please. Please.
I'm sorry, Mayor, who was the next person?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you called.
Dr. Mark Comody?
Oh,
No, Comedy. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm addressing you both as council members and / board members of the Paradise Valley Maintenance and Monitoring District. So, first of all, I have a comment about the notice of public hearings. And I would have been here with Rick Johnson and Theda Peck in person. I would have loved to, but according to the notice of public hearing, comments submitted during the meeting, which I did, will be read out loud. So I stayed at home. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, well,
because
thank
I
you.
stayed at home. And Councilmember Bertani, you made a big point already tonight about how neat it is to come in person. Well, this cheated me of that opportunity, so that's why I'm here tonight. And I will briefly, I'm not going to go through my whole email that I submitted to you all, but I do want to thank you for your vote to roll back the assessment. We still have some work to do. And Councilmember Tim, thank you. You asked Public Works Ryan, great question. I have a home of 2,400 square feet. I'm in Couple Circle, Area K. We're the original. 10 years we've been paying into this assessment. We built up $1.5 million reserve. Now comes Paradise 360, Area L. They come in a year ago, and they're paying half. There's many of those homes that are 2,500 square feet. Are you kidding me? That doesn't make any sense. And Public Works Ryan had no clue, no answer at all. So we do need to work on that. And lastly, I just want to, I am going to be on the ad hoc committee with Rick Johnson and Theda Peck as we transition. If you still care to transfer council to residence board, and knowing that's a daunting task, we will have a budget supposedly right now of $120,000. You, as council members, have a budget of $120 million. I salute you. I thought dentistry was hard. The job you do is awesome. I wouldn't want it for any. I do. I salute what you do. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Doctor. And our final speaker will be Alexis Giroux, please.
Good evening, and I apologize. I have terrible stage fright, but my name is Alexis Giroux. I am a mother to an adult on the autism spectrum and the founder of a nonprofit called Found It Peer Support and Social Group for adults with disabilities. I'm here to talk about diversity, equity, and true inclusion in simple terms. Diversity is everyone is invited to the party. Equity everyone contributes to the playlist. Inclusion is everyone has the opportunity to dance. Everyone means everyone regardless of race, age, gender, disability, religious and cultural beliefs, and sexual orientation. Solano County is one of the most diverse counties in the United States, and that's beautiful. But what's not beautiful is that our disabled individuals are following through the cracks at an alarming rate, and they have not been invited to the party. When we talk about employment, we talk about having our community members work for corporations such as Safeway, Home Depot, places like that. Those places tend to put our individuals at jobs like custodial work or landscaping. Many are able to do so much more than landscaping and janitorial work. Many could work within our own community, with our own government facilities, with our Parks and Recreation Department, working with the seniors, doing things that we hire young adults and high schoolers to do. These folks are capable and wanting to do these jobs. There's a benefit to these individuals. There's a benefit to those that they work with. There's a benefit to our city and our counties. There's tax credits that are available, 40%, which is a savings to our city. There are grants that are available for hiring these individuals. Not only are there grants and tax credits, the regional centers will also pay up to $10,400 for paid internships to work within an organization. I'm here today to ask that we please make these considerations and we work with these individuals that are truly capable than what we're doing for them now. Our program doesn't cost a dime to the city of Fairfield, nor does it cost anything to the county. I implore you to work with us, not against us, and be a partner of ours. Thank you so much for your time.
Mr. Rowe, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So how do you think the city can partner with, or at least have discussions with you to begin exploring what you're proposing?
A quick phone call and a meeting time would be a wonderful start.
Okay,
to
so,
doing
Mr.
that.
City Manager, can we follow up with Mr. Rowe and start those conversations and see where we can go? All right, that's the city manager. That's the guy you want to call.
Hi, I will do so. The city and I were in contact with each other pre-COVID. The person that I was speaking with is no longer with the city of Fairfield. I tried to continue those communications and those talks, and those calls went unanswered, those emails went unanswered.
Okay, so,
anything that you can do to help, I'm greatly appreciative.
and then I'm looking forward to having you come back and report some good news to us.
Absolutely.
Very soon.
We have a warehouse where our members work and sell donated items. We
Very
do a lot
good.
of stuff for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Brian Lynch, please. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Council, good to see you again. My name's Brian Lynch. Some of you I haven't met yet. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time tonight. I've got just a couple issues I'd like to bring up, and hopefully at the end I can bring up an answer for you that you can look into at least. So in my area, I see just a couple small things, but they can get out of control. And I noticed today or yesterday was once again somebody on Nextdoor knocking other areas of Fairfield because they live in a nicer area where that stuff doesn't go on. And so I live in that area I think that they're talking about. So a couple things I'd like to bring up are some of the weeds are growing in the sidewalks. Who's taking care of that? I know I take care of it in front of my yard, but around my community, I see weeds in the street, on the sidewalk, and I called Paul Sloan today, and he looked into it, and he says, nobody. It's the residents' problem to do that. They're supposed to take care of that. So in other words, if the residents aren't doing it, it's not getting done, and I see it only getting worse. Seeds growing, spreading, and it's only going to get worse. On top of that, the street sweeper. I think I've brought this up before. Some of you heard about this. Sometimes I think there's a game being played with him because he can't get around the cars. People don't know when those the street sweeping days are, so they leave their cars in the road. He just passes them by, or sometimes he doesn't even go around my lane, and I've called them on him a couple times. I think they know better than to not go around my lane now. But as I said, these are small issues. And when you take into account what some of the people on Nextdoor are saying, I don't like hearing that. I think something can be done. And you guys have made a mistake. I think you're making a big mistake because you're probably thinking right now, Brian, we don't have the manpower to take care of those weeds and to sweep the streets. We just don't have it. And that's when you're making that mistake because over the last few years, you've had at least 2 classes of that Fairfield 101, the civic class. And in my opinion, those are some of your best employees. The dreamers, the idealists, they're hard workers probably. They're going to work for free. They might even bring money to the city by doing some kind of a charity event. And then they bring skills that the city may not have. So I'm not sure why we got left. We took the class that you guys invested time, money, and effort into. You hired us and trained us and graduated us, and now you kind of let us go.
Brian, would you conclude, please?
And that is it.
Thank you very much.
So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Isabel Flores, please.
I'm a little nervous. I never really spoke before. And please forgive me. I may say some things that I don't think you guys may like, just because I feel like you guys should know. Mainly on Woolner Avenue, there's been a lot of accidents this year. 3 accidents so far in front of Midway Road and Woolner. Why? Because people speed on that road, and they speed really fast and they don't care. There's children that play on that street. Who knows what could happen if a child's playing on the road and this teenage driver is driving 70 miles on a 25. I called a few years ago because my cat got ran over. And the guy, I think Mr. Wong is his name, he made it seem like it was nothing, which, because of course the cats get run over. But in my head, if a cat's getting run over, who else is going to be next? Well, a speedometer was put in, electronical one, and now they play games with it, is see how fast they can drive. Pretty much is what it's for now. Just this past weekend, there was somebody that was speeding down the road, someone coming out of Midway to get onto Woolner, and they had a car accident right in front of our house. The third one, when are you guys going to put on like stop signs or speed bumps or something? Because I understand emergency vehicles need to get through, but it's not really a busy street. So even if an emergency vehicle gets through, I doubt there's going to be traffic there to block it. So if it needs to run past the stop sign, why not put one in? It's not fair to us. We live on that street. There's children on that street. They don't deserve this. And I'm sorry if my voice is shaking. I'm really nervous. Also, I've been helping Cameron Hosendorf clean up the trash under the overpass. It's disgusting. I would be embarrassed if I was like on the council or mayor and that was in my city. I'd be like, dang, like, we're letting that happen. There should be a trash can there for them. Why are we treating the homeless like they're like nothing? They deserve some kind of treatment, at least a trash can, a simple trash can to put in their trash in instead of throwing it on the ground. There's also feces in there, just so you guys know. Feces, human feces. We picked that up. And we asked for a trash can. There hasn't been a trash can put in yet, sir. And I'm sorry, I'm shaking again because I'm nervous. But I just want to be really honest, respectfully, because this is something that is important to me. I live around that corner. I see what's going on. And there's a lot more stuff that's happening on that street that I don't think a lot of you guys know because you don't live there. And I've lived there I've lived in Fairfield since I was 7. I lived on that street since I was 13. So I grew up here. And I grew up there and I've seen everything. So I would appreciate if somehow, some way, you guys could bring some help to Cameron Hosendorf because he needs it. If he's one leading it and it's just a few of us coming every weekend, how are we going to get things cleaned up so that way we can heal our city and make it beautiful? It's really overwhelming because it's like an island. You can step on it and you're like high, like taller. It's disgusting. Mainly, that's all I have to say, and I really appreciate you guys listening to me. I know I may say some things in the future for future meetings, just because I feel it should be to your attention. And I'm a city community member, so, and I again appreciate your time, and thank you everyone here for listening to me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for trying to help. Thank you very much.
Mr. City Manager, could we have somebody, our city engineer, look at Woolner again? It is nuts over there. It's nuts in, I know, a lot of areas in the city, but I've been down there recently to watch, and it is dangerous, and there are young children there. So, you know, I know that there are all kinds of specs that we have to get through to get a stop sign. We need to do something, and it can't always be having an officer there because we don't have an officer for every corner. But could we take another look at that?
Yeah, absolutely. You bet.
Thanks so much. And thank you, Miss, for coming and talking to us about, we are really well aware of that, and it embarrasses us too. And we do everything we can legally. And we do offer all, including the folks that you're around the houses, people homeless, shelter, and everything else. And many of them choose instead to be there. But we're doing our best, okay? Yeah, thank you.
And now we're going to have some fun. We turn to presentations. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
It will be my pleasure. The first presentation this evening is our 4th of July event awards. and our Director of Parks and Recreation, Christina Chamberlain, and Senior Management Analyst Stacy Phillips will be presenting the awards. Thank you.
Thank you, and what a wonderful event. I know we've heard and continue to hear from the public and everybody who was in attendance what a great event it was. And so we're here tonight to award the parade winners in the 7 categories that we had, and then we'll do the final awards for best theme and our sweepstakes. So for all of the categories, they will receive a plaque along with a cash prize of $150. So first place for our walking group, we offer that to Ballet Folklorico. And I believe there's a young lady here, or the group, if you want to come up and receive your award. And let's give them a great round of...
I love those costumes. Beautiful.
And please take lots of pictures.
It's hard to take pictures now with that thing there.
And congratulations. Next, we are awarding for the first place in our commercial group to Medic Ambulance. And first place for our equine group, Rancho Sargento. I'm not sure if anybody is here tonight on their behalf. We'll make sure to get them their award. Getting impatient, let's do that. All right, sweetie, we'll get you next. So first place for novelty is the Gonzalez family and their little ones, and we have little treats for them. I'll give them this one. So the parents can enjoy the plaque and the kids can enjoy some treats. So if you were not in attendance at the parade, these little doggies were driving around in a little pink Cadillac and enjoying life. Thank you. And our first place for Best Float goes to the Matt Garcia Foundation. First place for Best Vehicle, Steve Ramirez Tow. I'll get that plaque to them. First place military entry goes to American Armory Museum. Now for the specialty awards for Best Use of Theme, the Matt Garcia Foundation. The specialty award cash prize was also $150. And the judge's favorite, the sweepstakes with a cash award of $250 goes to Rancho Sargento, and they are not here either. And I do want to take a moment to give a special thanks and recognition to Stacy Phillips in our department. She served as our chairperson for the parade and did an excellent job. So thank you, Stacy, for everything.
Well done. Thank you, ladies. Madam Clerk, our next presentation, please.
Yes, redistricting 2021 process introduction and overview. And our presenter will be our Deputy City Clerk, Amber Alexander.
Sorry. All right. All right, it's not fair. We have to follow the cute dogs. All right. Good evening. Hold on. I brought it back. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to announce that we have begun the redistricting process, and I'm here tonight with Doug Yoakum, from National Demographic Corporation, also known as NDC, to give you a quick overview of the project. Redistricting determines which neighborhoods and communities are grouped together into a district for purposes of electing council members. Every 10 years, local governments use new census data to redraw their district lines to reflect how local populations have changed. Cities are required to engage communities in the process by holding public hearings and/or workshops. We are asking for the public to help plan, draw, and redivide the new city districts that will help define how council members are elected for the next 10 years. We have a contract with NDC to assist with this project, and I'd like to introduce Doug Yoakum, our demographer with the project. He will go over the services that they provide.
Thank you, Amber. Council and Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to meet you all. My name is Doug Yoakum. I'm a consultant with the National Demographics Corporation. NDC was involved with your districting project, which happened a few years ago. I was not personally involved, but I've been brought on board for 2021 because many cities are having to go through first the districting process and now the redistricting process. So it's just become very popular these days. We are in charge of helping your city staff plan the project, put together a schedule, put together meetings, and be at those meetings to inform the citizens and the residents what we need and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We will do draft maps, which are based on, hopefully, a lot of input from the residents of Fairfield, telling us what they think the district should look like, either based on what they currently look like or what changes they would like to have made. And at the end of the process, of course, we will propose a draft map that you will either accept or say, that's no good, go give me another one, and we'll do that. So we're involved in actually putting the lines on the map after we've heard from the citizens as to what they feel they need. I think we have a schedule coming up.
Yep. Okay, so our transition. The city transitioned from at-large to by-districts elections in 2020, a process which created our 6 districts. We held our first by-district election for districts 2, 4, 5, and 6 in November 2020, where we gained 2 new council members. At our next election in November 2022, we will hold elections for districts 1, 3, and 5. The council members for these districts will be voted for by their new district boundaries. So if there is a council member that changes districts during the redistricting process, they'll still represent the district that they were voted for until their term is up. Then they'll have to wait till the new district seat is up for election before they can run again. Does sounds confusing. So here's our redistricting schedule.
So we put together a schedule for you. August 17th, well, let me explain something first. The Fair Maps Act was passed by the legislature, and it requires cities and counties to do certain things now. One of them is have 4 meetings, 2 pre-draft meetings and 2 post-draft meetings. I'll put in some of the census stuff now. The census has been delayed, I'm sure you've all heard. So many cities are having to wait to do this process, as well as counties and the state. The state is dealing with this issue as well. So there will not be real census numbers until August 16th. The U.S. Census will release statewide data August 16th. But that data is still not usable because the state requires certain changes to that data before it's used. Basically, that has to do with the prison population in California and where they are located and where they are supposed to be located. So then, right around October 1st is when we will get real, actual census data that can be used for drafting maps. And so you'll see on the schedule we have post-drafting maps in November and January, where the council will hopefully adopt an actual map. But prior to that, there are 2 hearings, one August 17th, which is a month from now, and September 21st, where we hope to hear from the citizens as to what they think their neighborhoods look like, what districts they think those neighborhoods should be in, and how they relate to the current map that's already been drawn. And we also have scheduled a community workshop, which is outside of your normal hours, on October 7th.
All right, so I'll be working with our marketing and outreach division to encourage public participation. We will use all available outlets to market this process to all areas of Fairfield. We'll use Facebook, Instagram, the Daily Republic, local media outlets, flyers, local businesses. Hopefully you guys can get the word out for us. We'll use Channel 26. All materials will be provided in Spanish and Tagalog. Translators will be available if requested 72 hours prior to the hearings, and we'll provide council with all the materials they need to reach out to their constituents. We have set up a redistricting webpage under the city clerk's office that will provide continually updated information and tools. I've put some flyers on the dais for you, and there's some on the back. They're in the process of being translated as we speak, so that'll be available on the website also. And then there's also a QR code that we have on the flyers that links right up to the website. So let's see. So the public is highly encouraged to participate, and they can do so by attending the public hearings and the after-hours Thursday night workshop that we've set up. We want them to share their stories, get their feedback and opinions, and give any assistance that they need. We have also set up an email where they can submit written testimony, questions, and maps. And that email is districtelections@fairfield.ca.gov. And Doug will go over the map drawing process.
Our company offers the city public mapping tools. Some of them you used in the last process. They're specialized for however a person wants to participate. If they have a low level of computer knowledge, they can use paper maps and submit those. We also have paper associated with an Excel program, so that if they're familiar with that, they can Excel will automatically add up for them as they draw their own district on a piece of paper. The web page, Amber has already talked about, but that's where we hope to get feedback from city residents as the process goes along. How do they feel about the districts? How do they feel about the process as it's going currently? And any comments from the public are welcome. The public mapping tools that we'll offer, some of them, like I said, are paper-based, so they're easy to use. Some of them are also computer-based, and one of them is really easy to use. It's called District R. Your staff has already ordered it from us, and we're in the process of getting it ready. And it's kind of a program where you can take your mouse and just grab a paintbrush and paint a portion of your city and tell us, okay, this is my neighborhood, and this is what my neighborhood looks like, and this is the kind of people that are here. They can also use it to actually draw districts. But that will be available probably in the next month. And then, of course, we'll have the public hearings and the workshop, which I've already talked about, where hopefully we hope to hear from the citizens as to what they feel and what they'd like to see.
All right, for more information on the redistricting process, the public can reach us by email at districtelections@fairfield.ca.gov. The website address is www.fairfield.ca.gov/redistrict21. And then you can also reach me by phone if you have any questions. And we are available if you guys have any questions.
Any comments or questions? Well, thank you very much. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you. Thank you. And we turn now, Madam Clerk, to item number 3, please.
Yes, our next presentation, Shelter Solano Update, and our presenter will be Executive Director John Ekstrom.
And welcome.
Right on. There we go. Now you're live. Now I'm live. Okay, you heard me anyway. So I have a couple different things that I'm going to present tonight. I'm going to briefly start with a very brief history, some of the things that we overcame. We'll talk about Shelter Solano, but we actually started doing work here before we became the operator of Shelter Solano, so I'll talk about that. So I want to talk first about being low barrier. It's important for the people that we serve that we take them as they are in all of our programs. Over the past several years, these are the services that we've offered here in Fairfield, obviously Shelter Solano that we're all aware of. We operated the Project Room Key in Fairfield. The rapid rehousing program we have here is the one that preceded Shelter Solano. We also have a prevention and diversion program, COVID rental assistance, and the state ERAP program that we've done a bit of work with. So I'm not going to read all of these, and you'll see that in a bunch of other slides as well. But it's important to note that we're not just operating the shelter or operating those other programs. We're actually reaching out and connecting within the community. So one of the things that we've done is each year we've provided over 100 backpacks, and you can see Don and Sulina up there with some of the backpacks that we delivered. So we're now about 2.5 years into the operation of Shelter Solano using our program-based shelter model. We know that there were reputation issues with Mission Solano, with the large VA program that they had. Other funders left, philanthropic funders, and a number of clients who maybe have been there before did not want to come and stay. So those were things that we wanted to overcome. There was also a lot of words about, well, Shelter Inc. is outsiders. So we had a fair amount of staff that were already living up here in Solano County and Fairfield. And right now, we have 31 Solano residents working at our various programs. 14 are from Fairfield. We also hired all the remaining Mission Solano staff when we came in. We did not want to displace them. So a little bit about the property, because I don't think this is well understood. The property is now owned by the Sheldon Investment Company. They have to approve everything. We went through a very long process for several months, I think it was 4 months, working with the property owner and the then city manager to come up with a management agreement that met their needs. They are also the final approver of the operator. So some of the limitations that they put in place was no walk-ins, no temporary structures, and regular hours for intakes and discharges. They had a lot of issues previously with the homeless wandering around the area, and was a potential hazard because of the railroad there servicing them. So a little bit about the funding. When we first came in here, we knew it would be difficult. We thought we would have 4 county contracts. It turns out we only received 2. And Shelter Inc. actually loaned Shelter Solano about $560,000. Shelter Solano is now in the black and is in the process of repaying Shelter Inc. for that. We also raised about $700,000 in startup funds because we knew no money would be coming in the door because contract processes and payments always take a long time. In this case, it was a little over 5 months. One important thing is the per person per day model is unusual or actually rare for shelters. And it's certainly not a sustainable model because you have fixed cost and variable revenue. And with the case of the Health and Social Services funding, if they didn't fill the bed, we didn't get paid. We had no control over that. We had a number of extra expenses that we hadn't quite anticipated. One of the big ones was the outdated IT infrastructure. So we've been working on that. That includes phones, all the internet, because there's multiple buildings there. It also includes things like the cameras, a lot of things like that. So this is the current funding. And all this data is pretty much the end of May, sometimes end of June. So you can see where the money is coming to fill us up. So we're almost at 1.6 million in terms of funding. And we're getting about $207,000 from the city of Fairfield. So this slide is really about positive exits and what is the norm. We've run into this a number of times in terms of performance, even with the Board of Supervisors here. So we recently were requested by Sonoma County to respond to an RFP for a similar size shelter. Their requirement was 21% positive exits. San Francisco, their shelters, the actual numbers are around 16%. So HUD presents to the Congress every year what's called the AHAR, the Annual Homeless Assessment Report. So the most recent one that's out there is from 2018, and they survey all the continuums of care throughout the country, and the average for that was just about 20%. With our project Room Key, we were able to have positive exits for 32% of the people that came in, and for Shelter Solano, it was actually 54%. If we look at the last fiscal year, we had 300 people come through our doors at Shelter Solano, and almost 700 in the last 2.5 years. And this is the breakdown of where people came from. I know that there's always a concern in every community about, well, are there people coming from outside our area? So the 94% of the folks are from Solano County. That's actually better than most. Some go as high as about 15% of people coming from the outside. But you can see half of the people are from Fairfield. Length of stay is about 89 days. For those people that are actually have successful exits, it's almost 6 months. But for all the folks that are there, it's about 89 days. So what's a positive exit? So this is important. It's moving to a sheltered place that is fit for human habitation. You can't move somebody into a shelter because everybody in the shelter is considered homeless. And if they move from one shelter to another, it's not a positive exit because technically they are still homeless according to HUD. And you can see the breakdowns there. So it's 132 days for the positive exits. And of course, we have a fair number of people that exit to the street. Not everybody's going to be successful the first time coming into a shelter. So in the very beginning, I talked about a program-based model. So our belief is that we need to integrate the various wraparound services. These are people in crisis, been impacted by lots of trauma, and to have them try to navigate a complex system of care is very difficult. So we bring to bear as many resources as we can with our staff or through collaborations to make sure that the folks that are staying with us get the services that they need. So the bottom 4 lines there, those are some of the roles that our staff perform, and this is why we're able to get those positive exits. So I'll just let you briefly look at that, but these are the services: benefits, education. We have an employment services team. If you think about it, the biggest difficulty in getting housing is lack of income. And so what we try to do with our housing navigators is find affordable housing, and then our employment specialists are able to increase those folks' income or even help them if they don't have any income and try to close that gap between the housing costs and their income. So we do a lot with mental health. We have a major initiative to become a mental health center of excellence in the next 3 to 5 years. We use the social model for substance use. Most of our case managers are also certified substance use counselors. We also have folks that are certified domestic violence counselors. We know that a lot of women and sometimes men coming in either to the shelter, and most recently it's been through our rapid rehousing program, are survivors of domestic violence or they're fleeing domestic violence. So our staff that we have with case managers as well as some of our other specialists have bachelor's degree in an appropriate field. We have quite a few folks that have master's degrees or are working on that, and we certainly have folks that have lived experience. We always create an individualized success plan. The physical and mental health needs is very important. We partner with Touro University and Sonoma State to come in and do assessments, because a lot of the chronically homeless have those chronic diseases, right? So this is a list, might even be a partial list, of the trainings that we give our staff on an ongoing basis, pretty much every year. So we have a lot of resources, and we have people on our staff that are able to teach these. And this is a list of who we collaborate with in Solano County. We collaborate with a lot of other agencies that are here, nonprofits. So I'd like to bring up a success story for Shelter Solano. Some of you may remember Mercedes when she came and spoke to the city council. So after one of the meetings, we met with her. we were able to get her into Shelter Solano. There she is with her daughter. And what she said was, at the end of the day, I must say that staying in the shelter forever changed my life. It helped me grow as a person. You never know who is going to be helping and who is listening to you. All of this help came from strangers. I'm forever grateful for Shelter Inc.'s help. And she's doing quite well these days. So I'll briefly talk about Project Room Key. So it went on for about a year. You know, the goal of it was to make sure that the homeless out there weren't spreading COVID, you know, oftentimes in encampments or other places. So we ended up getting one of the motels, and over that 1 year we served 157 unsheltered homeless individuals. Again, a 31% rate of positive exits, and we had 12 enter Shelter Solano, mostly at the end when we were winding down Project Room Key. So here's another success story. So Salim was on our Project Room Key site. Where he had been living before was not a good place. So we worked with him, and we were able to find him a place that actually met his needs. You know, he was very adamant about how does he become self-sufficient with everything, and that worked out very well. So I'll read the bottom one here. So as he was moving in, he said, "I'm so thankful to Shelter Inc. and all the staff at the motel who made my dreams and goals finally come true." So I mentioned we started our rapid rehousing program back in the summer of 2018. So we've had a number of different contracts, some come, some go, but you know, we're doing pretty well with that. And the goal of rapid rehousing is somebody who's homeless, who typically has some income. We can get them into housing very quickly. We pay the first, the last, and then we'll continue to pay the rent on a step-down basis as we work with them to increase their income. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 months, sometimes it'll take a full year. So in this program, you know, you can see the services that we have there, and I'd mentioned earlier about, you know, the domestic violence. I need to keep my fingers off the keys. So Shelter Inc. is actually VSP, which is short for a victim service provider. That's one of the qualities that we have. So we had 488 folks come through our doors, and 412 were successfully housed. So Jessica had been chronically homeless for about 4 years. She had a son, right? Turns out also her mother had medical needs and was also homeless. So Jessica was able to go through our rapid rehousing program and get housed. Her mother, on the other hand, had some medical needs and ended up at Shelter Solano. And we were able to work with her mother and find some suitable accommodations for her. And the goal, of course, with all the work we do, is to break that cycle of homelessness in families. So prevention and diversion. We've been operating an eviction prevention program for almost 30 years. Our goal is to have a 1 month or maybe 2 months worth of rent. Classic case is my car broke down, cost $500 to fix. You know, if I pay for that, I can't pay my rent. You know, it's the classic catch-22. We've also had situations where, in one case, a daughter suddenly died. They had to pay for the funeral expenses, and we were able to pay their rent for 2 months. So throughout this, last year, we had 392 individuals enrolled, and 372 were saved from eviction. We have an absolutely marvelous team that does this. You should meet them sometime. So Matthew was one of the early people at Shelter Solano. He had had his set of issues in the past. He was finally, clean and sober, got a job, had his daughter, and then unfortunately, he got laid off. So he then came back to Shelter Inc., and we were able to help him with our prevention program, not only to get in to a new home, but also helped him find some new employment. I'll read this. Shelter Inc. helped me become a dad again, and without them, I would not be where I am today. I found a way to change my life, but I couldn't do it alone. So let's talk about the Navigation Center. So I won't read through all of this, but emergency shelters, according to the California Code, have minimal supportive services. And as you know, when I first spoke to you, going back at least to September of 2018, I think, I talked about a program-based shelter. And you saw earlier the wraparound services that we do. So we're basically a navigation center since day one, if you think about it, right? Because our goal is to end homelessness for those people that come through our doors. And we provide all the services they need to enable that. So I'm not going to read through this, but you have it if you want to know a little bit more, because there are some differences. So with Shelter Solano, our goal here is to find a way to meet some of the needs that we're missing. So the dining hall and commercial kitchen, I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but I was speaking with the CEO of Homemade, who helped build Mission Solano. And what she said was, as she was looking through the work that Homemade did with us, the dining hall was scheduled to be the first building to be built on the campus. And here we are, what is it, almost 20 years later? We're finally getting around to it. So we also know we need more storage space for possessions. Right now, the men and women in their respective dorms only have a small amount of space, and we know we need more. We have the dog kennels on site, but we also want to be able to accept comfort animals. And how do we do that? We have a lot more people there now, and it's going to grow, so we're going to have to increase our staffing. The critical maintenance issue, I should have bolded the word critical. The amount of deferred maintenance was one of those things I mentioned earlier. Huge, huge. We don't have a way of transporting clients anywhere right now. And along with our mental health initiatives, we would like to get a trailer, so that we can have therapy sessions in there. So I know this is a little bit difficult to read. I tried to make it as large as possible. But the shortfall right now for the kitchen is about 1.2 million, right? We're confident that we'll get those dollars. We're building. We'll be done in about a year. Of course, we'd like the city's help any way, shape, form that you can. And then for the Navigation Center, right, we're just under 100,000 short. Part of this is the, getting a new vehicle. We have laundry room and bathroom that are not usable right now. We need to rehab those. And of course, some additional staffing. So here's why Shelter Solano is a great place for the Navigation Center. We have a large property. It's 3.5 acres, and it's a very safe and serene campus. We can accommodate any household configuration between the dorms, the suites for women with children, and the apartments that we have. We can really take in any combination. You know, sometimes that combination means we may not hit our maximum capacity. It all depends on who's coming through the door. It's also in a business park. You know, if you've been out there, you know there's all the fields. Who knows when those will get built out, right? But we're away from commercial and retail centers. I know the business community, you know, one of their biggest things is they have homeless on their doorsteps. That deters their customers, and we want to help with that. It's away from residential areas, same situation, and importantly, high traffic areas, because we know that can be a problem. A lot of the homeless don't see the cars coming around. And we believe that through what we've done and our outcomes, we've made a very positive impact on the community here in Fairfield. Right now, and this is I think a week or two ago, we had 96 participants, and without the dining hall, we're over capacity. Makes it very difficult with COVID to have shifts going through the dining hall, which was really meant to be a daycare center for children. So once we do get the new dining hall finished in about a year, we'll be able to get at least 110 and up to maybe 130. So this is my favorite picture. This was from the Christmas dinner. I think it was it 2 or 3 years ago, Harry? 3 years ago, right. And I think you proudly have this picture on your wall of pictures in your office. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Comments, questions, colleagues? Vice Mayor, please.
Just a comment. John, thank you for the presentation. It was really informative. And, you know, thank you, too, because when I remember when I came back from Southern California and I had seen that navigation center there, you know, and in my head I was thinking, hey, we can do that here. We have the facility to do it. And theirs was really right in the middle of the neighborhood. So when you talk about a facility being away from things,
right.
You know, that to me, I kept thinking about the Beck Street facility, thinking this would be perfect. And thank you for willing to do this as a navigation center. You know, I think that having 96 people there, that's pretty good. You know, I think that's gone up quite a bit. And as you know, and Brandon knows, you know, I was pretty critical about the number of people there, but I'm really happy to see that there's 96 people there, and hopefully we'll keep going up, especially when we get that kitchen built. So thank you, John, for a really good presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We look forward to it.
John, I want to thank you, too, for reaching out to Touro University and getting them very much involved, because that's a career change for some of those students, some of those folks, some of those researchers. And taking advantage of the Solano Transportation Authority passes, the bus passes, a very good program that really needs to be sustainable. Right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Boyd, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Hi, John. It's been a long time.
Couple weeks.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Was very detailed. And what I like about it is the educational part of it. I think people have wrong ideas about how easy it is or could be to help people straight off the streets into a living situation. Could you just remind us, you and I talked about it, how many times does somebody show up to a shelter in general before you can get them into housing?
So I think the comment referred to people with substance use issues, and it almost parallels. But if you look at the efficacy of substance use programs, it typically takes a person 6 times. So it's about 16% effective.
Yes.
Hazelden, that has a 2-year program, is 50% effective. It takes folks quite a few tries to get to where they need to get to move forward.
It's very expensive. Right. It's time intensive. And it takes a heck of a lot of patience and expertise. I'm glad to see your numbers here. They look better than they did at first, and I understand that there was a transition and all that. These numbers are a lot better. They're a lot better. And I also like that you point out that you really already have a navigation center there. You're already doing all of those things. In fact, we used to do it at Heather House too. We were a navigation center, and so was so are others.
Right.
City Church does that as well. But I see that we're going to be doing just a little bit of different things here. Councilwoman Bertani and I went down to a navigation center in San Francisco that was funded by Twitter, which is nice. We were trying to get them to fund something here. That didn't work real fast, but you never know. But I appreciate Councilman Vaccaro's work and Councilwoman Panduro and my other colleagues as well on the navigation center. The one thing that kind of tripped me up on it, as you and I talked about, was the fact that you can't have walk-ons on this property. And the way that, like in San Francisco, the way I saw it, you could walk in.
Right.
So that's a little bit of an issue, but
It's a long walk for most of them to get
it
there.
is a long walk. They walk in and they got to go back, but they're getting their exercise. So that's good. But I appreciate it, John. I appreciate the numbers and the transparency very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, colleagues? Okay. Councilwoman Panduro, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, John, for the presentation. Very thorough and educational, informative. Thank you so much. I just had a quick question regarding, you talked about positive exits and just exits in general, and it might be the same answer as earlier, but I just was curious to know if there was a high percentage or low percentage of those individuals that return back. Positives, do they ever come back, or if the ones that exit, I know those are unknown sometimes, but do you see people returning?
I know that we have some. It's not a large number, at least at this point, right? And when we look at, the positive exits, sometimes it's to the hospital. Sometimes they go back to jail. I mean, a variety of things. And certainly in some of those cases, they've been exited, and maybe months later, they'll come back. But it's not a large number at all.
Well, again, John, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you all very
And
much.
Continue to do the really good, necessary work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you would, our next presentation, please.
Yes, our fourth presentation, update on Fairfield homeless initiatives, and our presenter is Homeless Services Division Manager Don LaBar.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Don LaBar, Homeless Services Manager. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening and give you another update on the initiatives being led by the Homeless Services Division and in partnership with our other city departments. So as you recall, it was just a little bit over a year ago when, under our city manager's direction, we formed a Homeless Services Division in the city manager's office to consolidate and better coordinate our response to homelessness here in the city. And it's been a very busy year. Since then, thanks to your direction and constant communication to our city manager and keeping this at the forefront of what we are doing here in the city. So the mission of the Homeless Services Division obviously is to permanently reduce homelessness in Fairfield. That's very simple. I wish it were that simple to do that. But also, as we brought to you before at our homeless retreat back in February, our goal is to increase our shelter and housing opportunities for our unsheltered here in Fairfield by 175 beds. And this is, of course, over the next 5 years, to reduce our chronic homelessness by 25% and to decrease our unsheltered homelessness by 50%. And I can say we're pretty well on the way. So this last year, we really took a different approach. Again, as you know, we've had a homeless strategy in place, I think starting back in 2017, I think was the first time we adopted a formal strategy. And we found, obviously, since then that we were more reactive. So we updated the homeless strategy last year to be more proactive. And it's really driven by programs that are based on your leadership, community input, and the Fairfield Gaps analysis last year that was conducted so that we could really target what sort of programs are really needed here in Fairfield and where those gaps are, and really focus our resources and attention in those areas. And we really became data-centric. So as you've heard me talk about before, if we were not measuring it and we don't have anything to show whether or not our programs are successful, then we don't know if we're putting those precious resources in the right place or if we need to make any changes. So we've become very data-driven. So just in the last year, again, under your leadership, we have implemented 4 really critical programs already. As you recall, we had our temporary COVID emergency shelter at Bay North. That was an 8-month program that we were able to extend two 4-month terms. And through that 8-month period, we were able to serve 164 homeless individuals that were able to be referred through our homeless intervention team. And we started the pop-up shelter at City Church. We started off with 9. They're able to take up to 9 at one time, and they still have the same 9. So that started in April, and they're still going strong. There's a handful of them that are actually have already gone to work. And they, of course, are with heavy case management there as well. And our goal is to, we did that as a pilot project, but our goal is to make that a permanent program, 12-month program, and potentially expand it, looking at locations in other areas of the city. So we hope to be able to do that in this next year. And of course, our Homeless to Work program, we're really excited about that, working with Mission Samoa. They now have 2 people that are enrolled in the program, and it is program-based, right? It's not a housing first model, so you have to want to be in the program. You have to want to go through case management, heavy case management, life skills, program-based, tailored to what your need is, and then they're gradually taking them through these phases, and at the point that they're ready, they will be entered into their various work programs that they have. They're learning mechanic skills. They have relationships with several retailers here in Fairfield to even teach them beginning job skills such as retail. So we're very excited. It's a small number, but in our opinion, it's a significant number to start. And then, of course, we were able to acquire program-based shelter beds at Shelter Solano. Thank you to John and his team. And as John just mentioned, so I won't go into all that, those are heavy, heavy case management, program-based beds. And since March, we've been able to serve 28 homeless through that program as well. And those are going to be a little kind of like with the pop-up shelters, because that's tied to really heavy case management. Their length of stay is going to be longer. It's going to take them longer to get through the program, and we hope then that is easing them then into becoming self-sufficient, and then we're not seeing them back out. So we don't really actually mind the longer length of stay if that means that they're going to be successful in the long run. And then just kind of a high level, some really cool things that we were also able to accomplish last year. We were able to secure a little over $7 million in different funding sources. Part of that was for the Project Room Key here in Fairfield. It was also for emergency solutions funding for our service providers here in Fairfield. We applied for and received the permanent local housing allocation. funding from the state, which will give us funding over the next 5 years for homeless and housing. And because of all that funding, we also needed to do the public processes to make sure that we were transparent in where the funding was awarded. So we did 6 different procurement processes to select operators or programs to award the funds to. 4, like what I mentioned, 4 new programs were initiated this last year, which created 109 beds. And I want to pause because that's pretty significant. 109 beds, and we're not done yet. And that benefited 192 unduplicated homeless here in Fairfield. We secured, working with our housing department, the Ohio Street property was rehabbed, and they're going to talk about that more later, but we were also able to identify through a public process, a new operator for that site, which we're excited about. We created a free temporary shelter permit program to allow additional opportunities, particularly for our faith-based leaders to do the great work that they're doing and also ensure that we are keeping people safe. And we were busy with a lot of community outreach. We gave away a lot of food boxes and backpacks and lots of PPE over this last year. And each time we were involved in community output, it was really also an opportunity for us to be engaging with the public so that we could be soliciting that feedback as far as what is important to our community. And we restarted our monthly homeless collaborative meetings. You may recall several years ago, we were meeting monthly with our executive leaderships, and I see actually both Shelter Solano and Community Action North Bay participate in those meetings. And these are at the executive level. They really give us the opportunity to really do deep dives and problem solving and really collaborate rather than working independently and address issues citywide. As I mentioned, we're working on 9 new initiatives, which I'll talk a little bit about very briefly. And then, of course, Project Room P. Project Room P was really significant. I think the governor thought it was only going to last maybe 2 or 3 months. I don't think anybody realized COVID would go on the way it did. It was supposed to be a temporary thing, but through Cap Solano and I think with the leadership of the city of Fairfield, we were able to serve 301 unduplicated participants in both the Fairfield and Vallejo projects. And I mentioned Vallejo because both the Vallejo and the Fairfield projects did serve our Fairfield homeless. So I think it's important that we note both of those. And then, as I mentioned, we're really trying to be more data-driven and really measure, if what we're doing is making an impact. So you've seen our dashboard before. You'll be getting your full report of the dashboard up to date in this next week's Council Weekly, but here's a snapshot of it, again, just to show you what we're tracking. But I wanted to particularly call out, because it's so significant, and what you'll see on the dashboard in your report will be the full year, but I want to particularly call out this last quarter. She sounds just like my Dixie girl. The last quarter of what our homeless intervention team and HEART team have done. There's absolutely no way that any of us could do what we do by ourselves. It really takes a really great partnership with our homeless intervention team, our police department, our public works team, our housing. We have to be doing this together, and I wanted to just call this out because it's really significant. The calls for service that you see there, that 737 number, that is specifically to our HIT team. That is not to a patrol, that is specifically to our HIT team. 737 calls for service that our HIT team responded to in a 1 quarter period. They also made an additional 47 contacts that were self-initiated. 55 people they were able to get into shelter. And homeward bound, 13 people they were actually able to get reunited with family. That could be here in Fairfield, it could be in Oklahoma, but they were able to reconnect people with their family. And I promise you, they don't retown people. They call the families, they make sure, are you okay? Will you take them? Is this a good fit? You know, they really do the legwork and the homework to make sure that this is going to work because they don't want it to fail. So 13, that's a significant number. 70 encampments posted, 1,366 cubic yards of debris removed. These are abandoned encampments. This is illegal dumping. One of our speakers earlier had mentioned about the garbage over there off of Woolner. Our HEART team is out there constantly removing illegally dumped debris. And 284 bags of our Adopt-A-Street. So thank God for our volunteers. And then our cart retrieval, in addition to our cart contractor, our HEART team is out there picking up those abandoned carts as well, 441 just in the last 3 months. So they're super proactive. And then some things we have coming up. We're still working on the safe parking program. We thought we'd have that completed by now. It wasn't as easy as we thought it would be. We just received some additional CDBG funds from our CDBG program, and we're using those funds to fill in those gaps for those, you have your generator is out on your car and you're about to lose your job. Typically those aren't things that grant funding will cover, so we're able to use these funds to prevent homeless and also to again, fill in those gaps to potentially even end homeless. So we're excited about that. We're working on a pallet shelter project with Mission Samoa that will add additional shelter beds. We're about to go live on our case management system. You've heard me talk about that several times. We're really excited about that because it's really data driven, which is really going to be able to give us those measurable outcomes to show if our specific programs are really working. It's going to have the GIS tracking in it. We're going to be able to be marking where we're encountering people throughout the community, where we're having homeless fires. It's really going to be able to really paint that more full picture of what we're doing here in the city and whether or not it's working. We're continuing our marketing and public education campaign, particularly around the way home. And Racial Equity Action Lab, you've heard me mention before about the huge racial disparity between our general population and our homeless population, particularly among the African American. So we are forming groups with our county and other local stakeholders. In fact, Kari Rader is a huge part of that as well, to try to proactively address that and find out the why so we can fix that. And then Vice Mayor Vaccaro and Councilmember Panduro are involved in the Regional Navigation Center. No need for me to talk about that. In the kitchen. And of course, with the last budget you just adopted, we will be adding 4 additional staff to the homeless services, and those will be the navigators. So they'll be able to really be boots on the ground, work very closely with the HIT team, and hopefully be able to take a lot more of those calls and really be more of that face. So again, just really complementing the work that's already happening. So we're excited about that coming online. There's the amazing trio right there, and we love that picture. Thank you to the mod team for taking that photo, and that's all I have. So open to any questions.
Comments or questions? Councilman White, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dawn, that was a good report. I've been looking for some of that information for a long time, especially the homeless fires. And I think we're going to be having, Mr. City Manager, we're going to have this on a future agenda item to talk about what the fire department wants to do with this.
Are you talking about fire prevention, mitigation, related to homeless and other things that are going on?
Yes.
Yeah, we can, absolutely. Yeah.
Good, okay. Because we can see that it happens quite often. A lot, too much. And, you know, we don't want to happen here what happened in Suisun City when they lost some homes because of a fire that was started in an encampment. So I appreciate those numbers, thank you. The question that I had was on Project Room Key, pardon me, my allergies. How many of those folks were COVID positive?
I'm sure I can get that data, but I don't know offhand. The Fairfield project, I know the Vallejo project initially had room set aside for either COVID positive or those that were waiting for test results, so they were quarantined.
Right.
But I think they only did that for a couple of months, and then the Fairfield project graciously took that on. John, I don't want to call anybody out, they may have that. No, 6. Thank you. 6.
A total of 6 were positive?
We'll have to verify the number.
Yeah.
I can't speak on behalf of Vallejo.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah, I
wondering
think
in
it's
general, because the idea was that they were more vulnerable to it because of the way they live, but they mostly live outside, so I was thinking, I don't think so much. And I was just wondering how that weighed up compared to the general population. I just have a suspicion that it was not as bad as we thought, but we'll wait and look at the numbers. But thank you. We can get those. Thank you. Thank you, Don.
Vice Mayor, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Shelley. I know your team has worked extremely hard on this whole outreach and getting this report together and everything you've done in the last couple of years. I also wanted to say with the 2x2 that Councilwoman Pandoro and I sit on, I think I said this the last meeting, this is the first time since I've been on the council that I've seen cities actually come to the table and want to work together and want to approach the county and say, hey, what's going on? You know, we need some help, we need some resources. And I felt really good about the last meeting because we all sort of came together. And I've never seen that happen since I've been on the council. And it's very refreshing to see that we all have the same outlook and that we all want to help. And I just wanted to say that I think it's a committee that I think we're going to move forward and you know, progress in the right way. And thanks again, Don. I really appreciate your team and everything you guys have done. Thank you.
And
No, go ahead.
go ahead, Councilwoman Bertani, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Don, for a great report and for all of your hard work over the many years. I know that you really have a heart for our homeless residents and for the work that you're doing. So thank you for a great report. And so, I'm going to ask this question as a resident, as opposed to a city council member. So with all that we've heard, all of the efforts, all of the resources that are being directed to homelessness in the city of Fairfield and Solano County in general, my question as a resident is, why are there still so many encampments? Why is that, and what are we going to do about it? Because I drive with everything you just heard from Shelter Solano and you and your team, still the city is, I don't want to say teeming, but I will say is still really struggling with homeless encampments and fires and collateral public health issues that come around having homeless encampments that don't seem to go away. So as a resident, I'm asking you, what more can we do? What can we do to clean the encampments up permanently so that we don't have people living on the streets of Fairfield? Because as you know, that is not acceptable. It's inhuman, and it's a public health disaster just waiting to happen. And all of us sitting up here know that. So what else can we do in that regard? And then I have a couple of follow-up questions on your report. But just as a resident, I want to know, I know that everybody on this dais gives a serious darn about this issue, cares a lot, and I know you do. Yet with all of the resources that we have deployed to date, we can't seem to fix that issue.
What is it?
I think the first part that I want to really, and I think you need to acknowledge your leadership role, because prior to a year ago, we didn't have the resources that we have today, which did not allow our police departments to enforce for those who were not willing to go. Councilmember Moy referenced that a few minutes ago. We have places for them to go now. So beyond that, it's either a flat-out unwillingness, or there is a more complex issue. It's a substance abuse, it's a mental health issue. But on the surface, we have places for them to go. Are we still lacking in some resources? Absolutely. We're still lacking in mental health. We're still lacking in substance abuse. And the big piece, too, is that affordable housing piece. And there's a report that just came out, a statewide report, actually, it's a Bay Area report, that, again, talked about the high cost of affordable housing in the Bay Area. And that's also a driver. But that's why, again, the housing department, the homeless, right? So while what we do is so significant that we're all working together so that we can be moving them through the case management, moving them through the programs, and then moving them into the permanent supportive housing. So we still need to be building on that. But there has to be the willingness to go.
Okay, let's just stop right there. Exactly. So what do we do? What system do we need to have in place for the homeless population that flat out refuses? They don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay where they are. How do we deal with that? Because I think that recalcitrant population, there's a population that they don't want your help. They don't want to go to, they want you to leave them alone. And they want us to continue to service that kind of a lifestyle, which we simply, as a city, cannot condone. So let me just ask you, as our resident expert, for the flat-out rejections, what next?
So I would say that I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question.
Can I try to answer that?
Yeah.
Then I want to recognize
Actually, I
Councilman
think-
Tim. He's been
yeah.
waiting very patiently.
Sure.
We'll come back to you, Mr. Sinman.
Do you want me to answer Councilmember Bertani's question first, or do you want to skip over that and go to?
I think that Councilman Tim may help you a little bit.
I'm happy to let him answer it instead if he'd like.
Thank you. As to Councilwoman Bertani in asking staff a question, you're uncomfortable. I think we're probably uncomfortable because what I'm going to say is some people probably won't like. But the person that will not go, that just flat refuses, you keep trying and you keep trying. But you get to a point, and John Ekstrom brought it up. A couple weeks ago, I was on a Zoom, matter of fact, you were on it, the invisible class. And it was done over 10 years. Well, they're no longer invisible. They are the visible class, and they are the biggest problem anywhere. Anywhere. California has 25% of the homeless, right? But what happens is and Pam, you ask, who do you hold accountable? We hold the people accountable that make the laws. And they keep changing the laws and changing the laws. And you can say it's right, it's not right, but this, in effect, is what has changed things. You can camp on public property if there's not a place for every unhoused individual to be housed, right? On public property. Unless, of course, it's a park, and we have addressed that. The linear trail, earlier Anna Petrero was talking about making by the waterway area and Woolner. When they get down in there, if they're on public property, it gets very, very difficult to enforce the law. And I'm not saying that you put somebody in jail, but what I'm saying is you move them, but where do you move them to? 3 years ago, I was uncomfortable in having them moved because there was no place for them to go. But you have to draw a hard line. And the line becomes when the law changes. And it's not going to change overnight. And in California, it might not change. It might not change. But the police department and we as a council and we as leadership in the city, the paid city manager on down, get accused a lot of we don't care. And I think in probably the last 2 hours, you've heard how much money we're spending and the time and effort that the other nonprofits put into this. And you're going to hear in a minute something else we're going to do, which is going to cost more money. But Pam, and I agree with you, because my neighbors ask me, why can't you do something? We do what the law allows. You never violate anybody's rights, but you get to a point where if the law doesn't change, we're not going to win the battle. We're not even going to be able to manage this. So it's easy to point fingers and say, well, change the law. It doesn't work that quickly, but that's a big part of this. I embrace everybody that stands up and helps the nonprofits that want to help them feed. They go out and clean up the mess, but every week, they were talking about Cam Holzendorf going out, cleaning up. Well, that's all we do is you help them, they go back down and you clean up where they refuse to accept our offer for help. And again, I go back to, what John said, take 6 times, 9 times, 10 times. Well, we'll be there. When I say we will be there, I expect the police department, public works, mental health, and homeless services to be there. And then they finally can either accept help or they can move. They can move. What else is going to happen until the law changes? Stefan, go ahead, sir.
No, thank you. I think you covered 99.9% of everything that I would have said, and I'm glad you said it instead of me. So that's probably more appropriate that it come from you. I would again thank Councilmember Bertani for her question, because I think it is a question that we get a lot from folks out there. And as you say, you're going to take off your council member hat and be a citizen. That's what we get asked a lot. We do see a lot of improvement as we drive around. When we take a look at what was out, for example, out here in City Hall Park a year ago or months ago versus what you're seeing today, the numbers that we've presented to you, the folks that are getting the help that they need, it is overwhelming. It's an overwhelming task, and you're exactly right. And we have to, as a staff, sit down and say, okay, we're going to measure success here by inches, not yards, because that's all we can do here. We take a look at what can we do today, what is possible today, where are the success stories, and there were some wonderful success stories that we kind of touched on very quickly, that Shelter Inc. touched on very quickly. There's many more of those types of success stories. We hear about them. We share some of those where we're allowed to share some of those. So progress is being made. Unfortunately, as you all know, there's no one magic remedy to this whole thing. It's so many different things. It's the mental health issue. It's the laws out there that prevent you from being able to do some of the things. Some of the folks that refuse help, after many contacts there, eventually many of them do finally accept help. And it's unfortunately oftentimes a situation where they hit rock bottom and there's no place else for them to go. They can't go down any further at this point. And then they finally accept help. And we're there for them when they're ready. But it's challenging. But we'll continue to do all that we can. And I do see some successes, and you do. And I know that's not what you were saying, that there's no progress, because you've seen it and commented on the progress that we've made. But we do hear that from a lot of citizens. It's still just as bad as it's ever been. We also know that when we have those successes, it's time to raise the bar again and find the next set of successes and to go even higher and even higher. And you can't celebrate for too long, because that bar has been raised and now the expectations are raised, and so we've got to take it even further. And I think there's some great things happening there with that. So thank you for that question. You're exactly right. We hear that and deal with that.
Did you want to go? Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. So just a point of clarification, and once again, Don, thank you. So what Councilman Tim, sorry about that, sir. I just have one point of clarification. So is the answer to my question, which is what system or program do we need to have in place if we don't have one now. What is it that we have in place or that we should have in place to deal with the flat-out rejection? Councilman Tim, so are you saying that by California law, we're stuck? Because we cannot force someone to go into a shelter or into a room. If they want to stay under the bridge, by law, we're stuck, and we can't do anything about it.
It's pretty much what I'm saying, but there's also, it gets very, very expensive. Is it Laura's Law, where, we can actually take somebody into custody and try to get them help under 5150, and it's been a while, but it takes mental health facilities. An officer picks up somebody, and I'm going on my past experience, picks up somebody, and you take them to North Bay so they get medically cleared, and you hope and pray that North Bay will accept them. Because if North Bay doesn't accept them, the officer's stuck. What does the officer do with this person? They walk out of North Bay, and they're on Pennsylvania Avenue next to the mall. There's nothing else to do. Being homeless is not a crime. Camping, defecating, stealing, sleeping, when you are offered service after service after service, I look at it kind of like a parent-child, is when do we say enough is enough? And as a council, we have a policy where we're humane, we're spending an awful lot of money, we're spending an awful lot of time, and like the city manager just said, is we measure success inches, 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 inches. But it is extremely expensive. But more importantly, 200 people can change an entire neighborhood. I'm going to let Councilman Tonneson talk about it, but his district has really been impacted. All the districts are, but because he's downtown. But Pam, to what you're saying is, what can we do? We can keep advocating and legislating and trying to get our legislators' attention. Because as a legislator in Sacramento, nobody's really there yelling at you. How many times, if you guys have been here a lot, how many times do you see people down here yelling at us? It seems like it's almost every meeting, especially over the last year, right? They get our attention, whether it's positive or negative, but that doesn't happen in Sacramento. That doesn't happen in Sacramento. So I think, Pam, to what you say is, legislatively, we become very, very proactive. There's a member of the press here, right? This is how word gets out. We also have our own great websites. We have great information, and we're not shy. Have we done things wrong in the past? You bet. Will we do things wrong in the future? Yeah, probably so. But it's not being malicious. It's because we're trying. Fairfield has always been known for innovation. As long as I've been an employee here, as long as I've lived here, Fairfield has always led the way. And why can't we continue to do that now legislatively? Put on a sport coat, put on a tie, put on a dress, put on your Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, and go up and start knocking on doors in Sacramento, and at least let them know we're here. I guess that's what I would say in 200 words or whatever, so.
Yeah, I'll just say I see that a little differently with the encampments and stuff, because I do live in the inner city, and I drive my district constantly. Doris and I, Council Member Panduro and I did a ride along with the HIT team. We barely left our districts. She's District 5, I'm District 2. We're the downtown and the North Texas Street corridors. I've gotten residents thanking me. I mean, it was all of us, obviously, and it was the city that Public Works, but for cleaning up the linear trail, for the lack of homelessness, just for paying attention to it. So I think that the vision that I have is that I see things getting done slowly, as they say, inches, but it's different. And I live near Lee Bell. Lee Bell has been great lately. The kids are coming out. Baseball started up again, and I know COVID had a lot to do with the shutdowns there. But I love seeing the parks full of people, and I've lived there for many years, and there was a lot of years when it wasn't full of people. So I think that we are making strides. Don, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. But that's just my 2 cents, Pam. I see it. I see it through a different lens, I guess, maybe. But thank you.
Oh, thank you. Just real quick. I 100% agree with Councilman Resident Tim. And what I mean is, and I've said this before, and if I have to, I know I won't have to do it alone because you guys will join me. Why don't we write our own law? Why don't we take it up there and say, this is the way it's done? And then I just really think we need to do that. It's enough. It is enough. I talked to a woman the other day who had to exhume her father because the homeless people were pooing and peeping all over his grave, and they wouldn't stop. And they put a tent there. They exhumed him. Now, when we're offending our dead, what about their civil rights? The other thing is, I know another city has filed lawsuit against people who are persistent for violating civil rights of our residents, and that is going on. Enough is enough. For these people who are reticent, I've got the biggest heart for homeless folks. I'll do everything for them. I won't make excuses. There's no excuse. When Don's team, our officers, our firefighters are out there every day with them too, giving them resources, and they don't go in. So why don't we get together, really write a law? I know the other cities here would join us, and we can go to the League of California Cities, right there, Mr. Vice Mayor, and get them on board. It's just something that has to be done, and I'm all on board for it. Yes, I would like to have that on an agenda, so maybe we could put together a committee of 3 of us to get to writing.
Well,
with you.
The whole thing is, though, we're going to have to get the state legislature to actually adopt it to compel someone to take services. And I do think it's really more of a lobbying effort, maybe through the League of Cities, to focus on that. I think it's hard for us to draft something not knowing how that's going to be received in the state legislature.
Well, we'll be working with them. I don't want to poo-poo it. I think we should talk about it, agendize it, because we're talking a lot too much about it now, and see what we come up with. And you can put on your thinking cap too, because enough is saying no. We've tried everything else. We're spending millions of dollars in this county, and it is inches and inches. And we'll continue doing these things that Dawn has put together and our nonprofits, but dang, enough is enough. It really is enough. And I know that people in San Francisco, because I'm very close with some of them, they're ready for it too. So if San Francisco is ready, Fairfield will lead the way.
And we're going to be at the League of California Cities Conference. We're going to be there, so we'll have an opportunity to do exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And we can do that from the floor, too.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
Yeah, Councilman Weiss, is that why you said Vice Mayor going to League of Cities?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just wondering.
I already nominated
Not this year. I'm going to nominate someone else. But anyway, that's besides the point. I agree with my colleagues, but it's uncomfortable to me a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I understand we do need to clean up the encampments. I understand that, enough is enough. I get all that. The one thing that I would like to see more, and I said this at another meeting, was that, sometimes we have to take the services to them. We have to take the shelter to them. We have to go out to the encampments with mental health workers. And I believe the chief, you did that once, didn't you? A couple of times, more than once, several times, right? Right. Yeah, and to me, that's until the problem really does get, solved to a certain point, I think that's something that we need to continue to do, because these are people, I understand, and, look, I've been working with, youth in this city for a long time, and a lot of them were homeless, and a lot of them were couch surfing, on a regular basis. Some of them got locked up in juvenile hall just because that was the next meal they were going to get and the next bed they were going to sleep in. So that's my concern. I understand, we said this a million times. We can't arrest our way out of this, and I know the chief understands that, and everybody does. But I do think, I agree with my colleagues, it's just, sometimes I get a little bit uncomfortable, because I think that we do need to reach out as a city more, and I think we are. I think we're starting to. And as long as we keep doing that, and we keep knocking at that problem, and keep cutting down on that problem, I think it's going to be okay. You know, I always have this feeling about, you know, just moving people, because like Councilman Tim said, where, right? I mean, where do they go? You know, and that's the problem, because if there's nowhere to go, then, you know, we're kind of in limbo. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
And I just want to clarify, too, that when we're doing any sort of coordinated encampment removal, it is, and I don't mean to speak for the police chief, but I just want to be very clear that there is extensive outreach that takes place, not a day before, not 2 days before, but weeks. It starts weeks ahead of time. So I just want to reassure you and be very clear that it's usually led by our homeless intervention team. They coordinate with our community partners. As the chief mentioned, there's been several attempts at doing outreach. The recent event at Allen Witt, they had 100 people that I think attended, and 1 person went into shelter. So it has to be combined with the enforcement, and that, again, is the piece that's really changed in this last year, and we've only been able to do that because we have drastically increased the resources.
And the council, you've approved 4 additional people, and that's what those 4 outreach-type caseworkers are for, that you approved the hiring of. They will be out, boots on the ground, as Don had mentioned, in the homeless camps with the homeless population, finding out what those needs are, because every individual has individual unique types of needs, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's substance abuse issues, whatever it happens to be. And so those caseworkers can be out there, they'll get to know these individuals, they'll be making contact. It's not a one-time contact, and it's, as was mentioned, it's over and over and over and over before oftentimes they'll take any kind of help, because they need to be able to develop trust with the individuals that are out there. So these are not law enforcement officers with badges that are out there doing it. These will be caseworkers that are out there working under the Homeless Services Division, not uniformed police officers. And we've talked a little bit about that as well. So we've got great resources coming and more to come. I mean, we're taking it to the next step here. So.
With absolute pleasure.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thanks. I just want to clarify a couple of things. I want to first say thank you for the question and the meaningful dialogue and understanding that everybody has. But there are a couple of things. One, we do pop up resources where we do take those resources out, but we take the resources out every single day. Every time we make contact with anyone in the homeless community, they are offered a plethora of resources. So it's not just at the pop-up events, but it is every single time we make a contact at a camp. And then on the public camping, you're all familiar with the Boise decision and the public camping law. And so people can camp in a public place if there is no shelter or no place that we can take them. Then it can't be criminalized. Sleeping, lying, standing, or camping in a public place cannot be criminalized if there is nowhere to take the person. And so having shelter beds has been critical and a game changer. And then yes, of course, the enforcement arm of this is also critical. It's a matter of education, educating the public about what is a crime, what's not a crime. Being homeless is not a crime. We do not criminalize homelessness. We criminalize activities and urinating in public and loitering, and all of those things are what the crime is. The problem is, legislatively, we can write a ticket for trespassing, or we can write a ticket for some of those other what are called quality of life crimes, and the courts are not taking those quality of life crimes now. They're being dismissed. And so that is a place where we could do better legislatively locally, but also legislatively, we don't have conservatorships. We do have them. They're really, really rare. I think in the last year we had 3. The courts granted 3 conservatorships, and they are really extreme cases where people are absolutely incapable of taking care of themselves and are a real danger to themselves, or it could be others. But only 3 conservatorships have been granted. And so it's a very rare thing for us as a country to move into conservatorship. So I just want to clarify those few points and then answer any questions, of course, if you have any. And calls for service for homelessness is down. For homeless-related calls for service are down considerably over the last 6 months compared to the prior year.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to my colleagues for this robust discussion on this important point. I agree with Councilman Tim that Fairfield has always led the way, and I think that this is an opportunity for Fairfield to lead the way again. Remember, the nucleus of my question was very specific, which is, what do we do with the flat-out rejections? Because Don is saying we have the beds. We have the beds. We have places to take people. We're not trying to criminalize anything. We're trying to get people the help that they need, but to the very specific percentage. Do we track that, by the way, Don? Do we track the flat-out refusals over time?
So now that we have the Apricot system, that is absolutely what that will be able to track. So anytime there's an interaction with the homeless intervention team or the navigators, they will be able to do a quick case note, offered these services, declined, or
Perfect.
Yes.
So the answer is yes, we are. That's great. So my point is, so why not continue in our way of leading the way? Lobbying efforts, obviously the legislators in Sacramento have not figured this out. They haven't figured it out yet. So what I would like to see is for the city council to, as Councilman Moy said, let's put our brilliant heads together and put together maybe not a, obviously it won't be a legislative enactment in Sacramento, but it can be the county seat for Solano County saying, we've thought about this, we've invested in this, we care about the people on our streets, we care about the folks in these encampments, and they're just not going to be able to live on the street indefinitely in the city of Fairfield. This is not, I don't think it's rocket science. So if we're looking at that defined population of individuals who simply say no over and over. The chief said we take resources every day. I mean, it's not like we just pop up to these events. This is a day after day after day affair. And, I grew up in the city of Oakland. Went down there for some barbecue on Everett and Jones at Jack London Square on Sunday. You know what? Oakland didn't deal with this problem. It is catastrophic now. I can't even believe that is my city. And yes, I'm saying it on an open mic because I can. That's where I grew up. And the homeless population there has grown absolutely out of control for whatever reason. Obviously, it has not been addressed properly. So I'm really asking the city, my colleagues and myself and all of us, let's do something different.
Amen.
Let's do something different. Why not? What do we have to lose?
And the annual conference is our opportunity to do that.
But can we as a cohesive unit come to a consensus on what it is we should be doing? Like, this is what the city council thinks that the city of Fairfield should propose and stand behind with Don's help and leadership and with the chief, all of her knowledge, our officers. What do we as a city council believe should be done in this scenario? This is how we propose to do it in the city of Fairfield, after we've all had an opportunity to weigh in on it. Catherine, if you want to make a motion, I'll second it to.
Make a motion to put that on the
You
agenda.
can't, yeah, it's got to go on the agenda. You can't make a motion on something that's not on the agenda.
Making a motion to put it on the agenda so we can sit down and talk about it so the cows come home and figure it out.
Yes, state your motion, please.
The motion
There's
is
no motion.
Yeah,
You
the-
give direction.
Maybe direction to go on the agenda.
So your direction is,
to put it on the agenda
and Mr.
so
City
we may
Manager,
discuss what we want to do
Legislatively.
legislatively and to send a clear message in this city that we find it inhumane and that we're not gonna, we don't go by it. We won't do it anymore. That's all.
that's the direction, and we'll also get our lobbyists, our state lobbyists involved. Because I think they're going to be essential for us to make the contacts that we need to.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah,
my
if you're trying to do
recommendation.
anything
Yes.
at the state level legislatively, it's the lobbyist that's going to move that. We can write bills all we want, but unless we have somebody there that's willing to sponsor it and get others to go with it.
And
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead,
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Vice Mayor.
Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely have to, I mean, the discussion, we have to have a real discussion about it. And I'm not saying I disagree with it, I'm just saying, this is, I mean, we can talk all we want tonight about how we're going to change everything. But we really have to get down to, okay, what exactly does that mean? What direction are we going to take? And in the meantime, like what the chief said, what they're doing right now, which is great, right? And that's got to be that transition into what we're talking about. So, right, yeah, okay. But I'm just saying, we have to have some real deep discussions, not just, you know, I mean, look, everybody up here has great ideas, everybody. But until we put some concrete facts on the table and decide what we want, then nothing's going to happen. So, but I agree, we have to have some deep discussion, so, yeah.
Last council comment. Councilwoman Panduro, please.
Thank you. I just, sitting back hearing, my colleagues, and I agree, enough is enough, we need to do something, and we have the ability to do something. And coming from a legislative background, it's absolutely possible, but we do need the support. And if we ever do able to have the discussion, that's great, let's do it. Another piece, I just wanted to thank Dawn and your team for all that you do. I know I drive around my community, my district. I don't see, the encampments that I do see, they were on Air Base Parkway. But what part of the educational piece I think that was brought up was, a lot of the areas that we're not able to access is because they're not city property. It's Caltrans, it's state. And so we're not able to go into those areas. And I think that's something that the community doesn't understand sometimes. So when we went to visit some of the encampments with the HIT team, they showed us everything that they had done, but then there was a fence. And beyond that fence, there was nothing had been done. But yeah, so it's working, collaboratively, with the state, with the county to be able to access those areas and not forget that the city does not, just because it's within limits, it's not part of the city. Because there's even overpasses, correct, that we're not able to access because they are considered Caltrans because they're underneath the roadway. And people don't know that all the times. And they just come in and, pointing the finger at us. That's what we're here for, and I get that. And I just wanted to, I appreciate all the different approaches that we're taking to handle the situation. I had an uncle who was homeless, and I brought this up before, and, there was an addiction there. Nobody could tell him to get off the streets. He was going to be one of the ones that said, no, thank you, every single time. And so I think about that question a lot, like, what can we do to those people that reject? What do we do? It's a great question. And obviously, we're not going to solve it today, but I think that we have some great steps to go forward for, to try to bring some sort of solutions to this area. The other thing, too, is for me, I would want to know, I know that we talk amongst ourselves, like what our ideas would be for that proposal going forward for the, legislatively, but what about our other field experts? Our service providers, what do they think can be done for those individuals that reject? What are their ideas around that question? They're the ones that are boots on the ground every day with these individuals. They see their needs day in and day out. What do they think that as a city that we can do for those individuals who are rejecting services? It would be interesting to hear what they have to say, as well as our HIT team. When we went out with the HIT team, I saw them going out there making those connections, and it was phenomenal. Like, they're they're so empathetic and so caring with these, and so much patience. And we saw it firsthand, and it was so impressive. And so what does a HIT team think can be done? Or what are their ideas with regards to people that reject services day in and day out? Thank you.
A very healthy discussion. Thank you very much. And we're going to jump ahead now to item number 17 because we need to make an appointment to the Youth Commission. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please, item 17.
Yes, one moment. Yes, it's going to be my pleasure to swear in 3 new youth commissioners, but we need to vote on that first. So item 17 is minute action approving mayor's appointment to the Youth Commission.
So would the appointees come forward, please?
Do they need to vote
Mayor, we need to
first?
have the
Somebody-
motion first on the action to make the appointment, and then they can come forward at that point.
Okay. Entertain
make
a
the
motion
motion.
then to approve the mayor's appointment.
First, I'll make the motion.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Come forward, please, because you've been patient, and I'm so glad you were here
yes.
for all of this.
Jezreel,
This is
Matthew,
your
and
future.
Jacob.
This is your future, ladies and gentlemen.
And I hope some of you choose to run for elected office at some point, because the future
Tonight?
needs you.
Not all your meetings, if you're in elected office, will be like this one, so.
Okay, if you could all stand right there. Okay, welcome. So I'm going to perform the oath of office to our 3 new youth commissioners. If you could all raise your right hand and repeat after me, and you can speak simultaneously all together. First, we'll start with I and our names. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Yay, congratulations. If the parents would like to come up and take photos. We'll just pause a moment so the parents can take photos if they'd like. And then I need each of you to sign your oath, and I have some goodies for you. Okay, so Jezreel, you could sign that, please. Here. And Matthew? Are you Matthew? Yes. Okay, if you could sign that, please. She can give you the pen. And you must be Jacob. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. And then we have jelly beans for each of you. Jelly bellies. And we have city pins.
Thank you.
And last but not least, I have some very nice certificates that were prepared for you with a letter from the mayor. So this one is for Jezreel and Jacob and Matthew. So congratulations. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
And council, we're going to take a 5-minute break, please.
Thank
5 minute, please.
Yeah, that was.
reconvene the meeting of the City Council. Madam Clerk,
Yes,
at this point, I'll convene the meeting of the Housing Authority, please, if you would read.
Yes, I'll read the following statement. The holding of a joint meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority entitles the council members to receive additional compensation of $35 for attending this joint meeting. And I believe I need to take roll.
If you would, please.
Commissioner Bertani?
Here.
Commissioner Moy?
Here.
Commissioner Panduro?
Here.
Commissioner Tim?
Here.
Commissioner Tonneson?
Here, is this item 5?
No.
4.
No.
Or, I'm sorry, it's,
There's no need to abstain yet. Councilmember Tonneson, we'll wait until items number 6.
Yes.
and Chairman Price.
Here. We have a quorum.
Here.
And the first item is a consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion unless a member of the authority or the public requests that separate action be taken on a specific item.
I don't have any request to speak cards. Entertain a motion then to approve the consent calendar as submitted. It's been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Moy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
And item 6 is Housing Authority New Business, Resolution HA 2021-09 of the Fairfield Housing Authority authorizing the Executive Director or his designee to execute and make any changes that may be needed to effectuate the lease agreement between the Fairfield Housing Authority and Community Action North Bay for the property at 710 to 724 Ohio Street and taking other related actions.
Mr. Mayor, sorry. I have to abstain from this. I have done work for and received compensation
thank
from
you.
the ED.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Tonneson. And our presenter is Jesus Morales, Senior Housing Project Manager. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question about this? Shouldn't we wait until we've already voted on number 19 before this one? Have you looked at that, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, there was a question of whether they could be combined, but they're two separate actions of two different entities. So therefore, you do really need to take action first on the Housing Authority action first, then it'll be followed by the City Council action.
Oh, it seems like that's backwards. Okay, thank you.
And again, the reason is that we're now acting upon the lease, and the lease really needs to be done first before we end up doing the operating agreement.
Good evening, Commissioner, members of the board. The item before you involves 710, 724 Ohio Street. This is a property that's owned by the Fairfield Housing Authority, and we're coming to you two items, as the city attorney mentioned. One is getting authorization for the executive director to enter into a lease of the property. The second item will be item number 19 under the City Council that's also related. The presentation that I'm giving you right now covers both items, so keep that in mind. When we get to number 19, we can revisit any particular points of the presentation at that point. So the Ohio Street project, we're getting a new program operator, property manager for that property. And in order to do that, we went through a very transparent request for a proposal process. I want to thank Dawn and her team for helping us do that RFP. They did a very thorough job on it, and just wanted to acknowledge their assistance. Part of the RFP, we were seeking an organization with experience dealing with homeless, managing housing for the homeless, and providing services to the same population. The RFP was issued on March 31st, 2021. I need to point out in the staff report, I transposed the numbers, and it says March 13. My apologies for that. So the RFP was issued on March 31st, 2021. It was sent to a number of organizations. There was a press release in the Daily Republic. We also posted it on the city website and other social media platforms. The notice was also sent on two separate comprehensive provider listservs to over 449 local service providers. In addition, the Communications Division did a web story about the RFP that was sent out to over 21,000 subscribers. So the RFP was very widely advertised. Once it was issued, inquiries regarding the RFP were accepted through April the 9th, 2021. We posted all questions and answers to any other questions that were posted on the city's website by 5:30 p.m. on April 13, 2021. Proposals for the RFP were due by 5 p.m. on April 19, 2021. We did receive 3 on-time proposals, and we did get 1 late submission that was rejected per the RFP guidelines. Again, this particular proposal came in after the deadline that was listed in the RFP. A panel comprised of a diverse mix of reviewers met on April 21 to review and score the applications. Out of these 3 applications, Community Action North Bay, referred to as CAMBY, was the highest scoring application and was recommended by the panel. Housing staff did a follow-up meeting with the CAMBY Executive Director on May 18, 21 to follow up on additional questions that we had and clarifications on some items that we wanted to get. And after that interview, we also agreed with the panel's recommendation that CAMBY was a worthy candidate to operate the Ohio Street project. CAMBY, Community Action North Bay, has been in existence since 1967 in Solano County. They've operated under several different names as the organization evolved over the past years. Most recently, in 2013, the Fairfield-Sassoon Community Action Council rebranded as Community Action North Bay, i.e. CAMBY. CAMBY's experience strengthens communities by providing housing and safety net services to those in need of assistance to live healthy and productive lives. They have over 20 years of experience working with the homeless and chronically homeless clients. CAMBY currently operates 7 homes. 2 are for transitional housing and 5 are for permanent supportive housing. They also have been providing homeless services in Fairfield since 2000. Current staff at CAMBY, 8 staff members, have over 70 years of combined case management experience. They also have developed and forged partnerships with various organizations, including the Veterans Administration, HUD Continuum of Care, civic organizations, substance abuse programs, Solano County Mental Health, and others. Solano County and Fairfield homeless or at risk of homeless are now offered both supportive housing and rapid housing services, rental assistance by CAMBY. Kari Rader is the executive director, and she's in the audience with us tonight and will be available for questions. The program operator, CAMBY, will execute a lease agreement for the use of the property to provide emergency shelter and transitional housing for homeless individuals and/or families. The lease agreement will be for a 1-year term with an option to renew 3 times for 1 year each. Annual rent will be $1 payable at the signing of the lease agreement. Per the lease, the use of the premises will be for emergency shelter and transitional housing to extremely low and very low income homeless or near homeless population with services. The program operator will be responsible for property service and maintenance, all utilities, including water, sewer, electric, and gas, any appropriate taxes and operating expenses of running the program and the property, any tenant improvements exclusive of the rehabilitation work that's currently going on at the property. In addition, they'll be required to maintain all the proper insurance for the property and the operation of the program. The lease will be subject to final inspection of the premises by CAMBY once the rehabilitation work is completed, which at this point is anticipated to be done by early to mid-August of this year. In addition, CAMBY will be executing a memorandum of understanding once all the terms of the services to be provided are finalized, and again, CAMBY has the opportunity to do a final inspection of the property to make sure that the work that has been completed meets the needs of the services that they plan to offer at that facility. CAMBY will be receiving $150,000 of CDBG funds to aid with operational expenses. This money will be on a reimbursement basis. They'll have to submit requests for reimbursement on a monthly or quarterly basis. We still need to finalize that part of it. Canby will also be able to access the tenant-based rental assistance program for residents that will be staying in the transitional units. Canby, as an experienced homeless service provider, will provide a variety of housing and social services for homeless individuals and families that will include, but not be limited to, financial literacy and job training, case management, mental health and substance abuse counseling, food program, and other services as needed. Homeless referrals will be from the city, the Homeless Services Division, from the Housing Services Department, the Housing Authority, the HIT team, the Police Department. The idea is to provide and give preference to homeless that are located in Fairfield. That concludes the presentation. I'm available for questions, and as I mentioned, Kari Rader, Executive Director for CAMD, is also in the audience if you have any questions for her.
Comments or questions, colleagues? Councilwoman White, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions and suggestions about the contract itself. You said here that Canby would be responsible for maintenance and so on. I'm going to suggest that for the large maintenance items that the city can handle that. What I mean by that is big things like roofs, like air conditioning. And the reason why I bring this up is because I'm, of course, worked in this facility and ran it for a couple of years. And when I got to it, it was in really bad shape. It needed a new roof, but there were not any resources for that at the time. So my husband, being a roofing contractor, he had to keep us tight. And we went through the same thing with the downtown theater, and we decided as a council that we would take care of the major maintenance and the small maintenance things like clogged toilets, little electrical things and stuff, we would leave up to them. And I think we should do the same thing here. Otherwise, you get in the same situation again, and the facility will ultimately be run down again, because nonprofits running at this size won't have the resources to do the big things. Now, I know they're coming in with a clean slate, that we're putting $600,000 or whatever into it, but it should never get to that point. And so that's my point, is that we should do the same thing that we did with the downtown theater and make sure that this facility is kept up now, because I see what happens when we don't.
Right, and one thing I do want to add, and you just mentioned it, that we are making a substantial investment on the rehab work. Part of that involves updating or replacing some of those systems, the heating, the cooling. We had the roof checked. We're upgrading the electrical. Bathrooms are being remodeled. Kitchens are being remodeled.
Good.
New flooring. There's a lot of substantial work. The whole point of that, again, to address your concern, is that these major maintenance items hopefully will not appear. And there'll be a warranty with some of that work, so some of that potentially, if it happens within the first year or two, would be covered, but I think that's a good point to consider, and that's why we want to give Canby the opportunity to look at the property once that rehab is completed, so they are aware, or if they have any particular issues that they want to have us address beforehand, we can take care of that.
Again, I totally understand that, but again, I saw what happened and what I walked into there, and it was devastating. And I just think that the city should continue to upkeep it. It's our property, and the big things we should pay for. Are there going to be new roofs on that? Because those roofs are shot.
I believe we've had a roof inspection done. I'll have to circle back with our project manager and confirm that we have had those checked and they are in good condition.
Okay, well, I can tell you, unless they've been replaced, that my husband is a roofing contractor, and they were shot. Some of them, one of them had 3 roofs on it, and it still leaked. I just hope that it's been replaced. It's, it needs to be done. So I'm just making a strong suggestion that we don't let the property get run down again. Yeah, that's my suggestion. And then the other thing is I wanted to find out with a CDBG, that $150,000, is that a one-time allocation or is that annual or what?
Currently, it's been approved for 2 years. And after the 2 years is up, I believe we'll be looking to continue that support for them.
Okay. All right, so 150,000 for 2 years or 150,000 for each year?
For each year.
Okay, good. Yeah, because, for 2 years, so they'll get 300,000 over the 2 years, is that right?
300,000 over 2 years.
I'm just looking out for you, that's all. So, okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
City Attorney, did you have a comment?
No. The one comment I was going to just add to is, again, there's going to be major improvements made to the property and before the tenant moves in. So really, and then the term of the lease itself is 1 year plus 3 option years, so it's a 4-year term. So really, I think the improvement plan itself really addresses this issue of the tenant being put in a position of having to make major repairs. Under this arrangement here, that should not be happening. Because otherwise, I think we're really kind of speculating down the road after these improvements are made as to what type of improvements need to be made and who will be the tenant at that point in time when those improvements would need to be taken care of at a later time.
Again, I'm just going to say that I would probably be okay with that just for those 3 years, but we did it for the downtown theater, and I think we should have a consistent policy. And if we didn't replace those roofs, they're going to need to be replaced. I can promise you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, thank you. I remember a couple of years ago, we were actually going to demolish those buildings. And what I'm concerned about is, and I certainly understand what Councilwoman Moy is talking about, but if we went in and made great expenditures, what's our vision going forward in, say, 4 years? Because now, I thought that property would have long been demolished. So I guess it's probably more of a policy question to the council if we're going to keep this up, but it's the Heart of Fairfield plan. So I would caution you, do what you need to do to make it habitable, of course, but without expending great sums of money until we know what we're going to do with it. So, and if it meets city standards and it meets CAMB standards, then I'm good with that.
And that is the strategy, that this is a use. Is this going to be the use 10 years from now? Probably not.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other comments or questions for Jesus? Entertain a motion then to approve the resolution. It's been moved by Councilman Tim. Is there
Mayor, just want to ask if any public comments on this? It's not, the public would have a right to speak if someone wanted to talk on it.
I will open the public hearing. Anyone choosing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back for council-elect. Seconded by Councilman Moy. Roll call. Well, we're live, so.
We can. We could be a voice vote. Yes.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And now we'll convene the meeting of the Paradise Valley Maintenance and Monitoring District.
Sorry, all matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion unless a member of the PVMMD or the public requests that separate action be taken on a specific item. Both items are consent.
Entertain a motion to approve. It's been moved by Councilman Moy, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Oh, I apologize. Item 8 is not consent. Let me read that. Item 8, Resolution PVMMD 2021-05 of the Paradise Valley Maintenance and Monitoring District Board approving the 2021-2022 Supplement to Engineers Report as modified and ordering the levy of assessment for the Paradise Valley Maintenance and Monitoring District.
Karen, this actually is on the consent.
Oh.
Both items are on consent.
So council did vote for both of those.
Okay.
Unless the
Sorry.
council objects to having voted for both of those and you want to separate those out, but they're a consent.
And item 8 simply carries out what you directed at the last meeting.
Okay, sorry about that.
reconvene the meeting of the City Council. And we want to move item number 16, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, item
Yes,
16
yes,
is
please.
removed. So we have items 1 through 15 on the consent calendar.
Yeah.
9.
Any comments or questions? Entertain a motion then to approve.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Tim, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Item 16, Resolution 2021-189 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield, submitting the levy of a special tax to the qualified electors within the territory annexed to Community Facilities District Number 2012-2, Public Safety Services, Open Space Operation, and Park Maintenance pursuant to Annexation Number 50, 360 Storage Center, and Resolution 2021-190 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield declaring the results of a special annexation election in territory annexed to Community Facilities District Number 2012-2, Public Safety Services, Open Space Operation, and Park Maintenance, determining the validity of prior proceedings, directing recording of amended notice of special tax lien for City of Fairfield Community Facilities District Number 2012-2, Public Safety Services, Open Space Operation, and Park Maintenance, Annexation Number 50, 360 Storage Center, and rescinding Resolution Number 2021-101. And our presenter is Chris Lewis, Management Analyst.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Chris Lewis, Management Analyst with the Public Works Department. Before you tonight is the election for Annexation Number 50 for CFD 2012-2. This district provides funding for public safety services, open space operation, and park maintenance throughout the city. On May 18, 2021, Council held a public hearing and adopted Resolutions 2021-100, annexing the territory to the district, and Resolution 2021-101 to declare the results, or the yes vote, of the special election. However, after the council meeting, it was determined that the property owner inadvertently failed to sign the ballot and now desires the opportunity to cast another ballot and another vote. The election was rescheduled for July 6th, but unfortunately the ballot was not received by the clerk in time. The resolutions before you tonight call for a new election to allow the property owner to cast another vote, declares the results of tonight's election, and rescinds the Resolution 2021-101, which declared the results of the May 18th election. A lot of elections going on. Sorry for the confusion. By carrying out the ballot procedure and adopting the proposed resolutions before you tonight, Council will complete the annexation process and the special tax may be levied on the territory. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
And Mayor and council members, at this point, the first action you can take right now is to adopt Resolution 2021-189.
Motion to approve. Been moved by Councilman Tim.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Tane. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very
And the
much.
next action would be for the city clerk to tell us the results of the voting.
Yes. It's stuck, one envelope is stuck to the other. Here we go. And we have 2 yes votes in favor of annexation. Yay.
All right, so it worked this time. So the action now would be to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-190 that declares results of the election.
So moved.
Been moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second, please? Councilman Tim seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. And we turn now to item 18, please.
Item 18, City Council discussion and minute action to select a voting delegate and alternate for the 2021 League of California Cities Annual Business Meeting on September 24th, 2021. And our presenter is Dawn LaBarre from the City Manager's Office.
Good evening once again, Mayor, council members, Dawn LaBarre. It is that time of year again to select our voting delegate and alternate for the annual league conference and business meeting. So this year's business meeting will be on September 24th in Sacramento, and as Vice Mayor Vaccaro knows, who is historically been taken that role on for us as the delegate, the business meeting could be carrying forward items such as what we were discussing a little while ago. It could be climate change, it could be fracking, who knows? So, but we look forward to it every year, and these are issues that affect cities throughout the state, and so I will ask that we open it up for discussion and potential appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBar. I will open it for discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
Historically, I think is going to come to an end tonight, okay, because I've done it for way too long. I'd like to nominate Councilwoman Pandoro. She has extensive experience in the legislature, okay, and I think she would be a great voting delegate for us, so I would like to make that motion. Do I have a second?
Oh, I'll second that. Absolutely.
It's been moved and seconded that Councilwoman Panduro become the official voting delegate at the annual conference in Sacramento. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Oh, and we need an alternate, too.
And we need an alternate now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well,
And in terms of an alternate, I'd like to nominate Councilman Tonneson.
All right.
oh, I'll
Well,
second
I
that
think
as well.
that's a
I
progress.
second it.
Well, that's a wonder. So we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second, please?
I seconded it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
They need to know, too, that they cannot leave the conference until the very last person, which is why I said historically that ends, so.
But you'll be well chaperoned too, and please call upon us when you need us, because we're going to be there too. We've got a pretty good agenda developing. No, we turn now to item number 19, please.
Mayor, I have to recuse myself again on 19 for the same reasons.
Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Yes, item 19, Resolution 2021-191 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield approving the selection of Community Action North Bay as the program operator, property manager for the 710 to 724 Ohio Street property, authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the memorandum of understanding between the City of Fairfield and Community Action North Bay concerning program operator, property manager services for the 710 to 724 Ohio Street property and taking other related actions. And again, our presenter is Jesus Morales, Senior Housing Project Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. So I mentioned earlier the presentation that was presented for the item under the Housing Authority Board is the same. I just wanted to sort of reiterate that in the selection of the program operator, property manager for the Ohio Street project, we went through a very transparent RFP process. And again, to thank Dawn and her team for conducting that and providing us that recommendation from that panel. The other item, I'll quickly also mention that they will be signing a memorandum of understanding once they've had the opportunity to inspect the property and upon the completion of all the rehab work, make sure that the improvements that have been done are going to meet the needs of the population that they're going to be serving, that they feel comfortable, and we're also going to finalize some other aspects of the program services that they'll be providing at that property. Any questions? I'm available for questions, and of course, Ms. Kari Rader, Executive Director from Canby, is also available.
Any comments or questions for Jesus? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion then to approve, please.
Mayor, we'll need to ask if anyone in the public wants to speak.
Anybody from the, I have no request to speak. Is anyone in the audience choosing to speak on this item should do so now. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And
I'll be happy to make a motion to approve.
okay, it's been moved by Councilman Tim and it's seconded by Councilwoman Bertani. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Well done. Well done.
Item 20, First reading and introduction of ordinance 2021-16 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield, amending section 12B7 of Fairfield Municipal Code to create the rules of One Lake Park. And our presenter is Jonathan Luong, Community Development Management Analyst.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Jonathan Luong, Management Analyst with the Community Development Department. This evening, I'm discussing the item of to introduce an ordinance to amend Section 12B7 to the Fairfield Municipal Code regarding One Lake Park. The statement of the issue is One Lake Park is a recreational lake located in the northeast area of Fairfield on the intersection of Vannon Road and One Lake Drive. It is a 10-acre body of water surrounded by a pedestrian trail that has public access. The city finds it necessary to codify the temporary rules and regulations that are installed around the lake. Some time ago, Public Works and the developer Canyon Station drafted what was permissible and prohibited for the lake use. Just a quick summary, swimming and diving and fishing are not allowed. It is designed for watercraft use of paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, and sailboats. And we wish to codify that as to give the city the authority to enforce any rules and regulations to, in the event of harm or risk to people who would use that lake. And I can answer any questions regarding that, the specifics of the rules or regulations or the issue itself.
Any comments or questions, colleagues? Okay, I will open the public hearing. I don't have any requests to speak cards. Anyone choosing to speak on this item should do so now. Close the public hearing, bring it back for council action. Entertain a motion to approve.
And this would be a motion to waive further reading of the ordinance and introduce it for first reading.
Moved by Councilman Bertani, seconded by Councilman Tin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And before we adjourn, don't forget that the opportunity to welcome BMW will come Saturday morning. So we'd like to see you there and look forward to seeing some of you, as many as possible, please, at the breakfast at Travis Air Force Base on Thursday mornings. We are adjourned till August 17th. Good night. Thank you.